Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call the City of Twinsburg Caucus meeting for February 28th, 2023 to order. The time is 7 p.m. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Present.
Mr. Post?
Here.
Mr. Deeds?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mrs. Labby?
Here.
Thank you, Shannon. Do we have any presentations this evening?
I believe we do.
All right. Mr. Mayor?
So I apologize in advance for my emotion, but I wanted to take a moment and say thank you so much to my staff. Mark Gutowski, Don McCabe, Zach Hebebrand, Karen Brown, Brenda Burns, Christine Staley, who's not here tonight, but most especially to Jennifer Simon. Your strength and dedication to the city has been so inspiring to me, and these past 5 years working with you has just been wonderful. So I just want to say thank you. If you could come up here just for a moment.
I don't know, maybe not.
Come on here.
I know.
Hi there.
Hi there.
How are you?
Good.
You have tears already.
Just yeah.
Okay. Well, what Sarah wanted to do really is she wanted to leave behind a proclamation for you. And so Sarah and I did a proclamation together, and here I'm going to read it for you.
Okay.
It says, whereas the finance director, upon her leaving for another opportunity, along with the mayor, would like to recognize Jennifer Simon for her many years of service. Whereas Jennifer Simon has worked in progressive roles for the City of Twinsburg Finance Department for 27 years. The mayor and finance director would like to share their appreciation for her years of service and dedication to both the City of Twinsburg and the finance department. Whereas she began her role with the City of Twinsburg in 1996 as a bookkeeper under Mayor Karabic and finance director Joanne Terry. Based on her excellent work, she was promoted under Mayor Prokop to accountant in 2000 and chief accountant in 2004. She was then promoted to her current role of assistant finance director of finance in 2018 under Mayor Yates and finance director Karen House. Whereas with her husband Bob, she has raised her children, Audrey, Becca, Jared, and Charlotte, while working for the city. In recent years, she's become a grandmother 4 times over. Wow, you look good. Jennifer enjoys spending time with her family and chasing after the family pets. Whereas in 2017, she graduated with an Associate's of Applied Business from Kent State University. She was an integral part of the 2019 finance team that developed the city's first annual comprehensive financial report. Excuse me. This report won the city's first Auditor of State award and distinction and the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Whereas Jennifer Simon has shown a great work ethic and has developed trusted relationships with city leadership, staff, residents, and we would like to recognize and show our appreciation for her for all her past, present, and continued efforts. In witness thereof, I have hereunto subscribed my name and caused our official seal to be affixed this 28th day of February, 2023. And it's signed by me and Sarah.
Thank you so much.
So, thank you so much.
No.
Thank you for it.
Yeah, was not expecting this, so thank you. It's been great. I mean, for anybody, you know, the administrations that I've worked under, the finance directors and everything like that, the people that I work with. It's not just working, you know, it's also making friends and just, you know, being in contact and, you know, having everybody support you and stuff like that. And it's been a lot the last couple of years, and it's been great. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Okay. That's good.
And there's cookies and cupcakes for all the Jennifer people outside.
We'll do it then.
Karen House just is coming in. She's got all crutches.
What are we doing now?
We're gonna do the,
All right. Shannon? Any other presentations this evening?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, not that I'm aware of either. All right, items for discussion. Council have any items they'd like to discuss this evening?
not this time. I would like to mention that we have both Karen House and Joanne Terry. We've got all the finance directors here. So,
Pretty cool.
what a cool thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Guess our money's safe tonight, huh?
Absolutely.
I know. We got all kinds of celebrities in the house tonight. All right.
That's okay.
Audience participation.
We have two. First, we have Lynn Clark.
Okay.
Good evening. I still live on Ring Mill Road.
Hey, Lynn.
And I wanted to talk,
Mr. Clark, before you get started, could we just switch the mic around? Thank you very much, sir.
might even be able to handle that without the chief's assistance, but
No worries, sir. Thank you.
okay. Thanks, Bill. I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about the arrangement with ZoneCo. And I think this is a great opportunity for the city. And in order to maximize that opportunity, let's make sure everybody is engaged to the fullest extent possible. We got to seek consensus building, not try to leave anybody out. Get a good cross-section of skills of people within the community to participate. Continuous engagement, not, sporadic, oh, come on in, have a little meeting, then go away, but continuous throughout the whole process, and not have an arbitrary deadline, but wait until things have been reconciled so there is that consensus. Over-communicate. This is going to be a little more difficult with the departure of our local newspaper. Couple of other things is just, again, great opportunity, long overdue. Let's try to get it so it's consistent, easy to understand, and have a process in place that is absolutely transparent and in full alignment with all of the regulations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Bob Hughes.
Bob Thews. I live the same place I did before, but I'm going to give my address. 2229 Demi Drive.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. And that's in Meadowood Plan. Just quickly, having a chance to look at the ordinance and the documents behind it, Domka's documentation. We brought up early on, a couple meetings ago, about the fact that there required a public meeting by our charter at the end of this thing. It's required by our charter. It's not my idea or anybody else's. It's right in the charter. We have a meeting here at the end, but it's a virtual meeting. I think
At the end of
what's,
what? I just don't understand what you're saying.
it's a virtual meeting at the end of this thing, whereas the charter says you have to have a public meeting
At the end of what thing?
at the end of the program. Okay, when you go completely through the program and get everything done.
I just wasn't sure what your topic was. I'm sorry.
Okay, fine, okay.
Thank you.
It's a virtual meeting. I think you're better off having a public meeting somewhere with that. So I would, now, they offer you that as an option, but it's another $4,500. I think it's something you need to do, okay, from that standpoint, because I think virtual meeting it won't hack it, I don't think, from that standpoint. Just a word of advice, okay? Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Anyone else, Shannon?
That's all we have this evening.
That moves us on to pending legislation. We're going to start this evening with ordinance 04-2023. This is an ordinance to enter into our annual memorandum of understanding with the Tinkers Creek Watershed. It's a partnership between the city and the watershed to meet our general national pollution, discharge, and elimination system requirements, also known as NPDES. This will be on its third and final reading this evening. Any questions on 04? All right, moving on to 05-2023. This ordinance will be on its third reading, I believe, this evening, to repeal Chapter 155 of the Code regarding the Glen Eagles Advisory Board. Charter Section 7.01 authorizes council to abolish certain boards that are created by council with a vote of 5 or more members. Since the board was established by an ordinance, it can be repealed by same. Council has had discussion regarding this committee, and it was determined that the board should be disbanded at the end of the current term, which is March 31st of 2024. So we're going to let the current term expire basically a year from now. And tonight will be on its third and final reading. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add on 05?
I do not.
Hearing nothing, we move on to 08-2023. This will also be on its third reading this evening. This is the ordinance to enter into an agreement with Zone Code to facilitate a comprehensive update to the city's planning and zoning code. The amount of the contract will be $158,905. It's on its third and final reading this evening. We're asking council to place it on an emergency tonight so that we can enter into the agreement and we can begin work as soon as possible. Any discussion on 08-2023?
I would just like to thank Ms. Ziegler and the selection committee for all the work that you guys have put into it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving along, ordinance 23-2023 is an ordinance updating chapters 135 and 925 of the codes regarding parks and recreation. Mr. Vizana stated at our last meeting that section 135 sets forth the power for the department to make rules and changes. This update allows for flexibility of our Parks and Recreation Director to review rates, make changes based on the needs of the city without necessarily having to come to council for every specific change. Costs will be determined on our actual costs of rendering the service. Fitness center and water park rates will still need council approval. Rules and regulations can be made by the director, and those changes will be kept on file with the clerk. So this is the second reading for that ordinance this evening. Any discussion on 23? All right. Hearing none, we move on to ordinance 24-2023. This ordinance is updating chapters 1164 of the code regarding fences. This was read at the last council meeting and sent to Planning Commission for discussion at their meeting, which I believe was last evening. Mr. Poster, Mr. Vizana, do you have any updates or anything you'd like to add this evening specifically on 24?
So last night at the meeting, they discussed the difference between a pool fence versus a perimeter fence. And one of the questions that I brought up at the last council meeting was, it says that a pool fence has to be between 42 and 48 inches. Mm-hmm. And my question was, what if someone wants to put in a 5-foot fence or a 6-foot fence? Why does it have to be limited to 48 inches? In fact, Lynn Muter looked it up. We're the only city that even has anything under 48 inches. We say 42 to 48, and everyone else says at least 48 inches everywhere else. So what planning said is, if you want a 5 or 6 foot fence, you can do that along the perimeter of your house. But their belief was that if you're going to put a fence by the pool, it should be no taller than 48. They voted on that and it came back 4-1. One person thought it's always better to put at least to give a little bit of options. So you can always go to the BZA and get it changed if you want, but their stance on that was they're going to change the wording to be only 48 inches for a perimeter fence around a pool.
Gotcha.
Okay, and what about the pool? Is the pool, the maximum height of the pool staying at 48? Based on their conversation?
It had nothing to do with the actual pool. It was
gotcha.
just specific to fences.
I gotcha.
It was just specific to fences. Because their thought is that if you make it too high right around the pool and you have other land or that you own around it, you won't see it, it'll be cut off.
Okay.
So I personally didn't agree with it, but that's what their take on it was. And they voted 4-1 on that.
And the original, I think, crux of this was to discuss an issue raised by Mr. Deeds about the chain link fencing and specifically the vinyl fencing, the imitation wood vinyl fencing and things like that, because the colors
Chain link.
were not specified in what is consistent with what we're seeing in the market. So this was just sort of an opportunity to
And they concurred.
to take a look at this.
They concur with taking the white out of the chain link fences. They concur with that.
Mr. Vazana, do you have anything additional you'd like to add, sir?
I do, yeah, to piggyback on Mr. Post's comments here, I'm in receipt of a initial report from Lynn Muter from the meeting, and as Mr. Post said, Planning Commission is recommending a flat 48-inch permanent pool fence if you go that route. Conversely, if you need a temporary fence, they said that it could exceed the 48 inches. I would not recommend that it exceed 72 inches, however, because that wouldn't be permitted under our general sign regulations. And then finally, as I think you were starting to get to, the Planning Commission supports removing the option for the white vinyl cladding on the chain link fences, and also, which I believe was the heart of where these amendments originally came from, they do support standardizing the allowing white vinyl and white simulated wood fencing. So moving forward from here, what I'm going to do is take this initial report and the Planning Commission's recommendations and update and amend, rather, the legislation that is before you, and I will have an amended copy of that ready for the next meeting.
The reason that they said for the temporary fencing of at least 48 is most companies just run that temporary 4-foot fence, that loose, but some companies have prefabbed fences that they lock together. And a lot of times those are 6 feet tall, and so they don't want to limit it by only having a 4-foot temporary fence. So they specifically said at least, in case, every company has their own type of fencing. And so some of those get 6 feet tall. So that's why they said that.
Any other discussion on 24? So 24 is on its second reading this evening. There will be a public hearing regarding ordinance 24, 2023 at our next meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, March 14th. That meeting will be at 6:45 p.m. here in council chambers. So the public is encouraged to attend if they would like to comment on 24, 2023. Moving along to ordinance 25, 2023. This is an ordinance updating chapters 1173 of the code regarding signs. Similar to our last ordinance, this was read at the last council meeting, sent to Planning Commission for discussion. And again, Mr. Poster, Mr. Vazana, anything regarding this or any additional things that you'd like to add? We're talking about some temporary signage and things of that nature.
So basically the only thing that we were reducing was from 60 days to 40 days on this. None of them had any problem with that. My question is this. The one thing that they did question, and it's a legitimate question, and Bill, you and I had a conversation about this a while ago. So let's say someone can have a temporary sign for 40 days, right? They have the sign in the yard for 40 days, take it out for a day, put it back the next day. Does that constitute 40 days, take one out, and next 40 days starts when they put it back?
The enforcement would be in the building department, so.
Right. So the question I have is.
It reads right now, it's 60 days.
Right.
And we're just trying to make it just so that there's a little more control when, at certain times of the year.
I don't disagree, but the question I have is, if we're going to change it, should we change it to be more specific instead of having more ambiguity as well? Where I know when you and I talked one time, we said you can have a temporary sign for 40 days, that particular sign every 6 months, right? So you can have a 40-day sign within any 6 months window. And the reason you and I said that was, do you remember that conversation we had that?
Yes, I do.
And the reason we said that was, so that way if there's there's an election in March, then you have an election in November, right? A primary and a regular election, that you can then put your signs out temporarily in the spring and temporarily then in the fall. And so it wouldn't be within the same 6-month window. And what that would do is that would prevent someone from saying, 40 days, take it out, 40 more days, take it out, 40 more days, take it out. And every time they could say, well, it's only been in for 40 days. And so I guess, I just think that maybe it would be better to add something to say 40 days, and then, or maybe they can't be concurrent, or 40 days, and that sign cannot be within X number of days front or back of the 40 days, just to prevent people not saying.
Have a real estate sign.
Well,
That's a separate part.
that was separate? Yep. Okay. But it's just my thought of, what's the point of saying temporary if you're not going to define temporary? Because I could really have a sign in my yard all year long, every 40 days, take it out for a day.
The only thing that changes in this ordinance from what has been the city of Twinsburg law since we've adopted the new sign ordinance 2 or 3 years ago, we're changing it from 60 days to 40 days. That's the only change. Any enforcement, anything else, nothing else changes, just the days of the, that you're allowed to have temporary signs out.
Right. And I'm saying, why don't we go one step further and make it better, instead of just lowering it from 60 to 40?
So why don't we look at different enhancements in the future, but we already got this through the planning commission.
Right.
So I would be fine with where we're at.
Suzanne, any
Bellin?
thoughts?
I believe Mr. Bellin had a comment, sir.
I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, Mr. Post. I think you're laying out a maintenance disaster, though, for the building commission to then keep track of, oh, is it the same sign? Is it the different sign? When did it go up? When did it go down? I don't know that they're going to be, I don't know that that's the best use of their time. But I'm not disagreeing, but I understand what you're saying.
Right.
That's all.
We have a sign ordinance, trying to make a small tweak.
No,
If we want to make another tweak in the future, that's fine, but it's taken 6 months to get to a small tweak where we changed 60 to 40. So I'd like to try this and see how it works.
Just to Greg's point, in any event, it's still a maintenance concern with the building department because they don't need a permit to put that sign in. We don't know when the 40 days started.
Right.
So, chances are it's going to be a little longer because by the time we see it and are made aware of it, then you got to count 40 days from there. There's not that kind of staff in there that just go around but like Bill said, it's the same thing, that we've had on the books before. So just have to do the best that we can with it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anything additional on 25? All right, so this will be on the second reading this evening. It'll also be at the same public hearing on March 14th at 6:45 PM for comment. Ordinance 28, 2023 is an ordinance for our annual permanent appropriations. City of Twinsburg passed a temporary budget for 2023 in December. The amount of the permanent budget for 2023 is $48,742,497.43. This will be read at 3 meetings. At the third reading, we're going to suspend the rules, or ask council to suspend the rules and pass it on emergency so we can get it to the Summit County by the March 31st deadline. Any discussion on our permanent appropriations?
No.
Ordinance 29, 2023. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply and accept, if received, a 2023 Energizing Community Program grant through NOPEC. These grants are for various energy efficiency programs and products. And this will be the first reading of that ordinance this evening. Any discussion on 29? All right. Moving along, ordinance 30, 2023. This is an ordinance to accept the bid of Barbika's Construction Company for the 2023 Canyon Road resurfacing project. The total cost of this project is $408,007.75. We're asking council to waive the 3 reading rule, place it on an emergency this evening so that we can get this agreement entered into as soon as possible. We do want to get materials secured and on order for this project and get into the construction schedule with the weather that's improving. Any conversation on 30? Discussion?
No, thank you.
Ordinance 31, 2023 is an ordinance to award the bid for the 2023 road striping contract to JD Striping and Services. The total cost of this project is $144,919.84. We're asking to waive the 3 reading rule this evening and place the ordinance on an emergency so we can get this entered into an agreement as soon as possible. Again, we want to go ahead and get materials ordered and get into the schedule of production. Any conversation on road striping on 31?
We do this every year.
Every year, exactly. Ordinance 32, 2023 is an ordinance to purchase 2 vehicles for use by our police department. Both vehicles were under state bid pricing and will be purchased from Liberty Ford in Aurora. The total cost for both vehicles is $84,140. Again, we're asking to waive the 3 reading rule this evening, place this on an emergency so that we can ensure the city can purchase these vehicles and get them secured in a timely fashion. Any conversation on 32, 2023?
No.
Hearing none. Resolution 33, 2023. This is a resolution to join Summit County Developmental Disabilities in celebrating March as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Any conversation about 33? We were approached by Summit County, and they asked if the city would support this cause, and I think unanimously it's something the council and the administration are in support of. So we're happy to see this come across our desk this evening. Ordinance 34, 2023 is an ordinance to amend Section 149 of the codified ordinances regarding fees and deposits. Specifically, the addition of this section will allow the city to include a 3% convenience fee when credit cards are used to pay for city events or services. This will be on the first reading this evening. Any conversation about 34, 2023?
No.
Sarah, just for conversation's sake, do you have a number on what credit card fees have cost us roughly in the past for stuff like this?
Oh, gosh, not off the top of my head. It's, the credit card fees are in so many different departments. I'd have to do a little research to get you that number.
Gotcha.
I
mean,
apologize.
this is something industry-wide, private and public sector people are seeing. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
trying to recoup some of that, so.
Yeah, I think it's most prevalent in parks, is where we've had a lot of the fees.
Rock the Park tickets and events
Right,
and things like that.
exactly,
Sure. All right, so that's the first reading for 34 this evening. Moving on, we're buttoned up legislation, moves on to miscellaneous. Council, does anyone have any miscellaneous items they'd like to discuss during caucus this evening? Mayor, anything?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Vazana, anything miscellaneous?
Well, sir.
Shannon, Sarah, guys, okay. All right, the time is 7:27 PM. We will now adjourn the meeting, and let's start back here at 7:35. Give everybody just a moment to get caught up.